HOA kidnapped my kids from my ranch, then learned I'm a retired federal judge with authority. Have you ever wondered what happens when a power-hungry HOA crosses the wrong person, one with the law on their side? The sun was setting over my sprawling Montana ranch, casting golden hues across the rolling hills where my two kids, Emma and Liam, loved to play. It was our sanctuary, a place where my wife, Sarah, and I had built a life after I retired from my career as a federal judge. The ranch was our escape from the rigid rules of city life, but the local HOA, led by the insufferable Karen Whitaker, had other plans. Karen, with her clipboard and her self-appointed authority, had been hounding us for months, complaining about our unpainted barn, the wildflowers we let grow, even the kids' treehouse. To her, our freedom was a personal affront, but I never imagined she'd stoop so low as to target my children. It started with a letter, one of those passive-aggressive HOA notices demanding we remove the treehouse because it violated aesthetic standards. I ignored it. The treehouse was on our private property, far from the HOA's jurisdiction, and I checked the covenants. Our ranch was exempt. Karen didn't take kindly to being ignored. She escalated, showing up at our gate with her posse of HOA board members, all echoing her demands like a flock of parrots. I politely but firmly told her to leave. That's when her vendetta turned personal. One crisp autumn afternoon, I was in town picking up supplies when my phone buzzed with a call from Sarah, her voice trembling with panic. "James, the kid's theory gone. The sheriff just called. The HOA reported us for child endangerment because of the treehouse. They took Emma and Liam." My heart stopped. I raced home, my mind spinning. Child endangerment? Over a treehouse? This wasn't just overreach, it was a calculated attack. By the time I reached the ranch, Sarah was in tears, and the sheriff's deputy was waiting. He explained that Karen had filed a complaint, claiming the treehouse was a safety hazard, and that we were neglecting our kids by letting them play in it. She'd convinced a local caseworker to issue an emergency removal order, and my children, 8-year-old Emma and 6-year-old Liam, had been taken to a temporary foster home an hour away. The deputy, a young man who looked uncomfortable even delivering the news, handed me the paperwork. Karen's signature was scrawled at the bottom, her name a venomous flourish. I felt rage boiling inside me, but I'd spent decades on the bench learning to channel anger into action. I knew the law, and I knew Karen's stunt was a gross abuse of power. The HOA had no authority to initiate a child welfare case, and the flimsy endangerment claim wouldn't hold up under scrutiny. But Karen didn't know who she was dealing with. I wasn't just a rancher, I was a retired federal judge with a reputation for dismantling overzealous bureaucrats. And I had friends in high places. First, I called my old colleague, Judge Margaret Hensley, who still sat on the district court. She was appalled when I explained the situation. "James, this is an outrage," she said. "File an emergency motion to vacate the order. I'll expedite it." I spent the night drafting a petition citing the lack of evidence, the HOA's overreach, and the violation of due process. By morning, I'd filed it with the court and secured a hearing for the next day. But I wasn't done. I dug into the HOA's records, pulling every email, meeting minute, and complaint Karen had filed against us. What I found was a goldmine. Karen had been misusing HOA funds to hire private investigators to spy on non-compliant residents, including us. She'd even tried to bribe a county official to rezone our land to bring it under HOA control. It was fraud, plain and simple. The hearing was set in the county courthouse, a small building where everyone knew everyone except, apparently, me. Karen strutted in, her usual smug grin plastered across her face, flanked by her HOA cronies. She thought she'd won, that her connections with local officials would protect her. The courtroom was packed with neighbors, some whispering in support of Karen, others curious about the new guy who dared challenge her. The caseworker, a nervous woman named Linda, took the stand first, admitting she'd acted on Karen's complaint without visiting our ranch or interviewing us. Strike one. Then came the twist. As I cross-examined Linda, a man in a suit slipped into the courtroom and handed me a file. It was Tom, a former U.S. Marshal I'd worked with years ago who'd been quietly investigating Karen at my request. The file contained evidence of her financial misconduct, bank statements showing thousands of dollars siphoned from HOA accounts to her personal ones. I didn't introduce it yet, I wanted Karen on the stand first. When she took the oath, her confidence was palpable. She rambled about the treehouse being a danger to the community and painted us as reckless parents. I let her talk, letting her dig her own grave. "Ms. Whitaker," I began, my voice calm but sharp. Are you aware that my property is not under HOA jurisdiction? Her face faltered, but she doubled down, claiming the county had revised the covenants. I presented the original documents, proving her wrong. Strike two. Then I pivoted. Can you explain why HOA funds were used to hire private investigators to surveil my family? The courtroom gasped. Karen stammered, her face turning red. I slid the bank statements across the table, and Judge Hensley's eyes narrowed as she reviewed them. Strike three. Karen's composure cracked. She tried to deflect, accusing me of fabricating evidence, but the documents were irrefutable. The judge halted the proceedings to call an emergency audit of the HOA's finances. Meanwhile, I pressed my case for the kids. Your Honor, I said, my voice breaking with emotion. My children were taken from their home based on a lie. This was not about safety, it was a personal vendetta. Sarah, sitting behind me, wiped away tears. The neighbors in the gallery, once divided, now murmured in our favor. The tide was turning. The final blow came when Tom testified about Karen's attempt to bribe the county official. The official himself, who'd been subpoenaed at the last minute, confirmed it on the stand. Karen's smug grin was gone, replaced by a look of pure panic. Judge Hensley didn't hold back. She vacated the removal order, citing gross misuse of authority by the HOA and the caseworker. Emma and Liam were to be returned to us immediately. As for Karen, the judge referred her case to the district attorney for charges of fraud, bribery, and abuse of process. The courtroom erupted in whispers as Karen was escorted out, her HOA empire crumbling. That evening, I drove to the foster home to pick up Emma and Liam. When they ran into my arms, I felt whole again. Sarah and I held them tight, promising they'd never be taken from us again. The ranch, once a battleground, was peaceful once more. But the story didn't end there. The HOA was dissolved after the audit uncovered more of Karen's schemes. She faced criminal charges and a civil lawsuit from the community she'd bullied for years. Her reign of terror was over, and she'd spend years paying for her arrogance both in court and in the court of public opinion. As we rebuilt our lives, I reflected on the power of standing up to bullies like Karen. It wasn't just about winning. It was about protecting what matters most: family, freedom, and justice. The neighbors, once under her thumb, started coming by, apologizing for staying silent and sharing their own stories of her tyranny. We became a tighter community, one built on trust, not control. What do you think? Was Karen's downfall a fair consequence? Or did she deserve a chance to make amends? Share your thoughts, because when power goes unchecked, it's up to us to hold it accountable.